Hello and welcome in again to another edition of Musings from the Mountains, video podcast presented by WVSports.com. I am Keenan Cummings, joined by my sidekick, Serre. We have a lot to talk about. West Virginia got a win, and a big win at that. It wasn't a pretty win, but dubs all around for WVU. West Virginia gutted this one out, lucked into it, fought hard. I don't know how you want to describe it. It was a great football game where you could have seen West Virginia winning this by 3 touchdowns or losing by 3 touchdowns, but they found a way to win the ugly contest with Baylor, 27-21 in double overtime. West Virginia did not play well in a lot of areas. 12 penalties for the second straight game, over 100 yards in penalties for the second straight game, 4 turnovers, another fumble that was recovered by the offense, and a lot of bad. A lot of bad on offense, a special teams turnover, but won the game. And how did they win the game? A great defensive effort, first of all. West Virginia won the red zone too, which is paramount when it comes to football. If you're going to lose the turnover battle, you better not be able to make sure that the other team can capitalize on those turnovers. West Virginia was 4 for 4 in the red zone, scored touchdowns on all 4 trips, held Baylor to 1 for 3. Baylor missed 3 field goals. Well, missed 2. 1 was blocked. And the Mountaineers just found a way. A week after, Neil Brown, in his postgame, got up there, talked about how they cannot beat themselves. They have to find a way not to lose. They want to start winning football games. Well, guess what? They still tried to lose this game and found a way to win. And I think that says a lot about the trajectory of this team moving forward. Don't you, Jared?
Yeah, it was. I mean, you took all the words. I can't. I'm a writer, but I can't think of any words that mean the same thing that are different. It was downright ugly. It was awful. I feel bad. I feel personally bad that you had to be there and to watch it. I felt bad at home watching it, but ultimately, a win is a win. They did pick up the win. I will take this quick moment to apologize to all my blue lotters out there because I called you all out last week. And then my game pick was wrong, so I'll try to do better after the bye week. But, yeah, it was an ugly, awful game. There were few bright spots to take away. But, again, a win is a win. And that I think it means even more, especially when nobody really knows what the Big 12 as a whole is going to look like this year. So, I mean, the Mountaineers are sitting at 2-1 right now. I think that's what matters right now, that they're 2-1, not necessarily how they got there. I mean, they got to switch some stuff up. They need to be better against some of these teams moving forward, but sitting 2-1 right now, you really can't ask for a whole lot more heading into the second bye week.
Yeah, speaking of predictions, I'm now 2-0 with 2 very similar scores to how it played out. I'm not saying I'm going to give you guys lottery numbers or anything, but I have been right 2 weeks in a row. Really 3 if you count the first one, but I think that was pretty much we all knew what was going to happen against Eastern Kentucky. Something that did go right for West Virginia, though, was its defense. Absolutely phenomenal effort. Yes, there was the late touchdown they allowed, and, of course, the first play in overtime. But for basically 58 minutes in this game, West Virginia's defense controlled it. 6 sacks, the most, coincidentally, since they played Baylor last. 11 tackles for loss, coincidentally, since they played Baylor last. And Baylor was a good team, is the weird part about that. But they controlled this game. The defensive line was dominant. Darius Stills, 2020 Darius Stills, comes back out in a big way. Guy has, I now believe it's 5.5 sacks over the last 8 quarters of Baylor. If he played Baylor every week, he'd be the number 1 overall pick. Guy just comes out and balls. Akeem Mesidor played great. Tony Fields now has 39 tackles through 3 games. The secondary gave up a few passes, but for the most part played well. Had 2 interceptions, could have easily been 3. One was overturned by penalty or by review. So overall, really, really good performance. Kept Baylor's vaunted, I want to say vaunted because a lot of people were talking about it coming into the game, run game in check, 0.8 yards per carry, 0.8. Fewest total West Virginia's allowed on the ground since TCU in 2018. West Virginia's defense controlled this game and gave their offense a chance when, once again, they could not stop shooting themselves in the foot. Yes, I do want to say this, though, about the offense. We have been ragging on them a bunch since the start of this, and rightfully so. Neil Brown called it gritty. I don't know if I'd go that far. I do think that it was a great way to win a football game. Once you play bad, I think if you're going to be a good football team, you're going to have these games where you play bad and you got to find a way to win it. But I will say this for the offense. They didn't do a lot, but when they did do things, it mattered. West Virginia was able to score a touchdown on the opening drive, turn around and score a touchdown after really struggling. Uh, they went basically the length of the field on the first drive, and I've had 65 yards, I believe, over their next couple through the first half. Was able to score early in the third quarter or late in the third quarter to take advantage and really get some momentum back. And then in overtime, when this team had to score to win this football game, they didn't just do it once; they did it twice. I understand short field. I understand different parts of the game, but still, the offense was able to get it done when it mattered. West Virginia now, 2-1, 2-1. I think that most people probably would have projected something similar coming into the season at this point. I think this 3-game stretch coming up is the most important stretch for West Virginia this season. You got 3 games coming up. You got Kansas at home. You should win that game. No excuses. You have to go to Texas Tech, which is always an adventure, and then you'll get some I want to call them tostadas, but
Tortillas.
thrown at you. Yes, you can tell it's been a long day for me. Get
Yeah.
some tortillas throwing up. There's always a lot of points out there, but that'll be an interesting one. And then come back home for Kansas State. It's a 3-game stretch that I think ultimately decides, is this going to be a pretty good West Virginia football team, or are we still using build blocks to put this thing together? We'll find out. What do you think about this stretch? I mean, I personally, I think it's the key to this season. If West Virginia's going to win 6-7 games, they need to go at worst 2-1 over this stretch.
Yeah, I think, if the first 3-4 weeks of the season are any judgment of that, we're going to be saying, constantly this week or this game is the key. And then, the next week we're going to be saying the same thing. And I think that all comes down to, West Virginia, not to beat a dead horse, but West Virginia keeps constantly shooting itself in the foot. And ultimately, it doesn't matter how good your team is. If you keep going in with 100 penalty yards a game and stupid turnovers, if you find a way to lose, you will lose. So I think, of course, every game is critical, especially in a year like this one where nobody really knows what the playoff could look like, or the polls eventually at the end of the season. But they really need to take this bye week. And Neil Brown preaches we need things to be different. We need to cut down on the stupid mistakes. They actually need to go out and do it. And so maybe once we see that in their first game back against Kansas after the bye week, then we'll kind of have more expectations, a better understanding of what this team will look like. But every game, every stretch is important as we head down toward the end of the season.
How much of a change is it in 2020 that we're now, I don't even know how far we are into this, and we have not mentioned the rushing attack once, because it's almost the expectation now that
Yeah.
Letty Brown's going to get close to 100 yards. We're not talking about 20-yard performances. Fewer than 51 yards 7 times last year in 12 games. That's still a gross stat to say out loud, but
Yeah.
Letty Brown just short of 100 yards again. Continues to just grind out yards. Tough yards running inside, is always falling forward, yards after contact. He so far, to me at least, has been the best player on the team. Maybe not the most, maybe not the most glorified at times. He might not receive the most postseason awards. When it comes to how valuable he is to this team, I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if there was a player that would be close, it's definitely not a guy on offense. I'll tell you that. Letty Brown is the catalyst that makes the West Virginia offense go. Albeit the West Virginia offense is not very good right now, but he is the guy. You hit it right on the head. 3 straight games to open the season of 90 yards or more. If you told me that last year, I'd say you're a damn liar. He's been hitting it on the head. Him and, I mean, even Alex Sinkfield. Sinkfield had a bad game against Oklahoma State, bounced back this week. The run game itself has been doing a very good job. But going back to your quick point about Letty Brown being the best player on the team, I also think we can't forget Tony Fields. We are, 3 weeks in. Tony Fields has, I believe, led the team in tackles each week. Uh, Tony Fields is shaping up. We know he's an NFL player, but he is truly shaping up, in my eyes, to being an elite linebacker in the college game.
Yeah, and I think, granted what he was able to do at Arizona, that's not necessarily shocking, but it's still a welcome surprise for West Virginia because they've hit that grad transfer roulette several times. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. West Virginia, big win, 27-21 in double overtime, moves to 2-1. Need to talk a little bit about recruiting, though. Happened yesterday, but feel the need to mention it. West Virginia adds to the class again. Davis Malinger from Florida, plays for Cocoa, Florida now, Cocoa High School down there. Safety/wide receiver type, the 16th commitment in the class. West Virginia at 3.25 average star rating per recruit, still the highest of the entire Rivals internet era for West Virginia. Malinger was committed to Central Florida. West Virginia flipped him. Had a lot of good offers, a lot of Power Five, a lot of offers that had come in late, and was getting attention from even more. So big time recruit, another addition to the class. A big weekend all around for West Virginia. You win on the recruiting trail, you win on the football field, and you win by listening to us talk for a little bit. At least I hope. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in again, though. We'll be back during the bye week. Plan on coming together, having a Q&A at some point. We won't be doing a game preview, but we're going to take questions on here and kind of get at it. So we'll see you. We'll probably see you Tuesday, too, after Neil Brown talks. But thanks for tuning in again. This has been another fun-filled edition of Musings from the Mountains.